Welcome to another episode of The Pebble. And I am very excited to have a friend and mentor, Kami Huyse. She is the founder and CEO of Zoetica Media, which technically makes her my boss, but she doesn't like that very much because we work together very much as a team in the organization. But I want you to know that when I say she is my mentor, I mean that very sincerely. So, for this Monday motivation, I have asked her to come and share a very personal story about how she was impacted by someone we all know very well and others, and how that has become really a driving force in her life, and how she has chosen to help people like me and many other women grow in the business world and personally. And that's just made her who she is. So I'm going to stop talking because it's not about me today. It's about Kami. So, Kami, hi. Thank you for coming.
Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the Pebble. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, ditto. And like I said, I don't want to tease it very long. Recently, there was a passing of a real, when we say icon, that sometimes gets thrown around,
Mhm.
but this person really lives up to it. So, if you want to share your story and how she impacted you, I'd love for you to say who it is.
Sure. So we're talking about Barbara Walters. She is a huge newscaster, one of the earliest women, like not chairs, heads of news programs that there were in the United States. And so we have really looked. I mean, I've looked up to her pretty much my whole career. And I still remember that I was on campus. I was in college and I was on campus and I heard that Barbara Walters was coming to speak at our college.
You want to
And
say what college that is?
yeah, George Mason University. Yeah, that's part of the story. So for sure. And so she was coming to George Mason University. And I think she was going to a bunch of different colleges around the United States at that time to talk about journalism, women in journalism. It was really, really exciting. And at the time, I was serving as the advertising director on the Broadside, which was the student newspaper at the time. They've changed their name, but it was the student newspaper at the time. And yeah, so as like every other college kid that is in journalism or communications, we were all really excited to go see her.
Ah,
And so we all packed into the auditorium and we watched her. And at the end, we found out that she had donated her speaking fee to the college as a scholarship for a female journalism student. And I think she did that all around. And as you might know, for journalists, they don't take gifts, they don't take money usually. And so I think that's her way of giving back, right? So she took what would be normally her fee for coming to speak and she donated it back to the school and through the bank and everything. So yeah, I heard about that, and I immediately went and whipped up a very heartfelt essay because that was part of the deal. Is you had to write an essay, and turned it in. And at the time, George Mason didn't have a journalism program per se; they had a communications program. Today, they have a journalism program, so it's grown over the years. But I was on the broadside, so I was a journalism student at the school. And so, yeah, I got the award.
and was it particularly important to you to have a scholarship at that time?
Yes,
That was
it was
the
very
leading
important to me.
question. That was the leading question.
Yes, that was a very good, like if we were in court, I'd say objection leading. No, it was absolutely like critical, Tracy, because this was my sixth year of college at that time. I'd been putting myself through school this whole time, um, working full time, pulling jobs together, looking for scholarships, like these kinds of scholarships, applying for scholarships. And we were coming up to my last semester of school and I had a issue because I was out of money. So I wasn't really sure where it was going to come from. Like I just needed a couple $1,000s. I was just short. And at the time, a couple of $1,000s could have been $1 million to me easily. could have been a million to me.
Right.
I remember, like a credit card calling me up because I did have like one credit card issue too around that time because I was using it to buy food and gas for my car. And I defaulted on that credit card and they called and said, if you pay half now, you never, it's gone. I couldn't even do that. I,
Right.
I I just had no money. It was like really, really difficult. And I know some of you listening might be in the same boat now. So I totally understand this. Um, I totally understand this place and how scary and how um, terrifying it really was. So to get that scholarship at that moment from somebody who I really admired so much was, yeah, I mean, it was everything,
Yeah.
truly.
And I
Yeah.
so
So I,
appreciate
I,
you sharing that.
yeah.
And I so appreciate you sharing like credit card failings and such in this moment because I've been there. And oftentimes we place a lot of guilt and a lot of shame on that as opposed to you were doing the best you could in that situation to better yourself and to improve yourself and the numbers just didn't add up, but you going to college is how you got here, and
Mhm.
I have lived food hand to mouth from credit card too, so I really appreciate you sharing that. But of course it made that scholarship all the more valuable. It made finishing possible.
Yeah, and like I said, because I didn't have a credit card and I didn't have any credit either, I couldn't even borrow the money.
Right.
I just had
Nothing
no
left.
resource, nothing. It was the end.
And so Barbara Walters coming to George Mason and having
Yeah.
been moved by your essay made everything really important and
Right.
possible.
It was huge. I mean, I guess, at some point I probably could have gone and begged. I would have had to beg somebody for money, is what would have happened in the family, extended family, whatever. And I didn't have to do that. It also was a sense of pride.
Yeah. And I happen to know the answer to this question. So leading question number two.
You know
Uh,
me too well.
did she respond to you when you did reach out to her and tell her that you appreciated this
Yeah,
scholarship?
yeah, absolutely did. So I wrote her a really detailed letter. I mean, it wasn't long, but I wrote her a letter thanking her, just like you should, for any kind of scholarship. And but I also put in there, I told her what my situation was and how like what she had done had actually made the difference, and that I was able to graduate on time, like because of her. And so, yeah, she responded to me. She sent me a really wonderful, heartfelt letter. It was very short, but she told me it made her day too. So, mhm.
Yes. And the reason why I push those two is because that's what the pebble is about, is that um, she did something that maybe wasn't a huge thing in her world, which was donating her speaker fee, but it was extraordinary. It for you, that's that ripple effect, right?
Life changing, really.
And who- your life is where it is now, very likely because you weren't delayed in finishing school and you didn't have to do something that made you feel less than to finish it. In fact, you were emboldened and given pride because you received it this way. And all of those things that build us up and make us feel better, you put that into the world. And that's why I really wanted to have you here, is because I fundamentally believe that you walk your days in your business life and your personal life trying to help women live their best lives. Like, I've worked with you and you don't like, you want me to learn more skills and you want me to grow as I work with you, but you also are always like, and when you're out doing your own thing, Tracy, this is going to help you. Like, you see a future for me. That's me leading my own dreams. And that's very special about you. And I have to believe that that is informed by moments like this in your life. And I treasure that about you. And I think it's a lesson to be learned and to be shared.
Well, thank you so much. And I do think that is the case. And I know that Barbara Walters, for example, she really did dedicate a lot of her career time to mentoring other female journalists. I really saw that too when this story came out when she died. This kind of came out, what we're talking about now. I guess I'd never really talked to you about it before. Like, you didn't know this about me, did you? No.
Did not. I was like, what? How did I do this?
I know we've known each other a long time, but I don't talk about this a whole lot, but when she died, of course, I was I was moved and I was on Twitter and everybody was talking about her. And so I put in my little story and I tagged my alma mater, George Mason University. And I had a woman that reached out to me who had mentored with her directly. Like Barbara Walters spent time with her, like one on one, like calling her. And she was a journalist. And she goes, "Yeah, that's totally how she was." She was, I mean, obviously she got impacted even more than I did because she like was mentored by her. But I just thought it was amazing that there was just so many people that were just jumping out of the woodwork saying, "Oh yeah, she helped me too, and she helped me too, and she helped me too, and she helped me too." And that really was inspiring at this point in my life. That was
Well,
inspiring to me at this point in my life.
I love that. And I think, what do you feel like now? As you said, you feel inspired now, and you do have this company, and frankly, we're all women, and but not just within
Except
our.
for Alden.
Oh,
Let's
I'm
not,
sorry, Alden.
don't forget about Alden.
Alden, who is fabulous. A shout out to Alden. We are mostly women, but we have a wonderful, supportive Alden. So I want to give a shout out to him. But not just within our ranks, but the organizations that you choose to work with and you seek out. What do you feel like taking that inspiration you want to do moving forward? What kind of work and how do you want to take that inspiration? Do you feel like you want to do next?
Yeah. So I really want to continue to kind of live into the Barbara Walters shoes. I can't, but I want to do things like she did. And I have along the way. I also had another boss that was very much like her too, who also helped me through a lot of things. So I'm motivated by people that have done that for me, and I've seen what the impact was. So for me to do that for others is really important. This year, I took on a board seat on Public Relations Society of America in Houston, PRSA. I've done lots of work with PRSA over the years. But one of the things that I found out is I needed to start a committee. And I was like, what committee are we going to, or chair a committee? And I saw university relations just sitting there in a little line item. And I thought, like my boss, my first boss, uh, took me to PRSA meetings and luncheons and stuff when I was in college, still like during this whole period with Barbara, same thing. And I thought, what if we created a situation like that where we had a place where we're bringing college students to lunch with us and we're mentoring them for like a semester or whatever. It seems like a small thing, but what if we did that with 10, 15, 20 professionals in Houston? What kind of ripple could we make with that? Whereas one of us can help one or whatever. What if we're helping 5, 10, even if it's 5? Um, I don't know. So I guess for me, I look for opportunities to create things that will be ripple makers, as you say, that will actually go well beyond me. And at this point in my career, I just don't really do a whole lot of stuff for my own sake. Do you know what I mean? I really don't have a whole lot of like goals to like be the best at this or the get the biggest award, or I've gotten a lot of awards. I've done a lot of things. I really, at this point in my career, what I want to do is I want to help others to grow and blossom and become. And so that's, I guess, maybe a long answer to what your question is, but
No,
that is what I
answer.
see.
It was a very good
Like,
answer.
let's grow the garden. Let's grow the garden. Let's put the seeds out. And even if they take, time to grow beyond me, let's put the seeds out. People did it for me. I want to do it for others. As simple as that.
Well, and I can, not to turn it to be about me at the moment, but I can attest to that because recently we had a tough moment at work, and I made a mistake, and I you called me personally and you said, A, you said this is a learning thing, and
Mhm.
B, when I worked and I turned it around, you said, I'm really proud of you, how you handled it. And it was very much a mentoring moment. And it
Mhm.
was like, next time for you, when you're, because I'm doing things on YouTube, you're like, you'll know how to do this, you know? And so at the moment it was tough, and because nobody likes to make mistakes, especially when you're a grown adult, you
Mhm.
know, nobody feels good about it. And in the moment, it was still hard, but the ability to come to me, and it was in there, right? So by the
Mhm.
time I woke up the next day and we spoke, and you saw how much I had done, and it helped so much for me to be able to reframe it and fix it, right? Because it was like, it's a learning thing and it's
Yeah,
okay.
it is. And here's the thing, I just love what you just said because as a mentor, like if you want to be a mentor to others, one of the things that you have to fight is the urgency to fix it for them.
Right, right. And I'm sure, like, there was probably an instinct like, I can probably fix this right away and send it over. But we talked through it and I was like, I know what I need to do. And the reality was, I had really done most of the work. I had just
Mhm.
misunderstood the targets
Mhm.
and I needed to breathe. And because you were able to see it through a mentor's eyes as much as the project manager boss eyes,
Mhm.
I was able to be given the space to fix it.
Mhm.
And we got great feedback from the company. They were like, "Oh, okay, you turned that around great." And everything worked out. Mm. But like you talked about back with the Barbara Walters, I was able to come out of it with some amount of pride, instead of, I screwed that up, someone else had to fix it, and so it was sort of irrecoverable, right? And so I think you're right, like, there is you can learn how to be a mentor too, and there is an art to
Mhm.
mentoring, and I think a lot of people think mentoring is just a position, and I think that you also mentor how to mentor. That's a, like, but I think, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
you've evolved in it and you've grown up. Like, I happen to know who your mentor is, and she's one of them, and she's pretty awesome. So I know how you became at least partly how you are, because of I'm familiar with her, and so I think that if I become in that position, I have been guided in some ways that hopefully I will have some grace in that position and go, okay, let's just breathe. And at the moment, I'll be honest, I was kind of like, well, I don't care if I know how to do the YouTube. I screwed up and I feel awful. And I knew you meant well, but in the moment, I still felt awful. But
It was probably a little bit too soon to say that.
no, but it was good, because later that night when I had some food and I stepped away and I
Mhm.
pulled back my computer, I was like, "No, she's right. I do know what's here. I had done the work." And when I could, and she's like, "You've learned the lessons, you've learned a lot." It was in there. So it was good.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
just
it
wanted
was
to
good.
share.
And I do think that that's the thing for you and for me too, is that um, it's something I talk about a lot with crisis management, and that is to respond and not to react.
Yes. And
And in moments like that, your feeling is just to react on both sides.
yes. And I think there's so much growth possible on both sides. I
Mhm.
think I have grown a lot in allowing myself to be mentored, which is not because I'm a very sensitive, emotional person. And I
Mhm.
don't mean that when I say reactive, I don't get angry or anything at anyone but me. I take everything on me. And so learning how to not do that so that I can take in information. I think I've come a long way in that. And I think all of the only reason why I share all this information is because that comes from the space and relationship that you create in the mentoring space, right? And so
Mhm.
I think that has a lot to do with what you bring, what's important to you, which is that you are not so interested in the immediate result. I mean, obviously it's important. We have clients and we care about them, but we've
Very
also
much.
created a relationship with them over a long
Mhm.
time too. But you
Mhm.
also care about the overall, like, with us who work with you. Like I said, like, you create a team. You
Mhm.
also cared about me in that moment and how hard I had worked and helping me bring it to a conclusion within. So you had more than one stakeholder. And in business, you don't always see that. And so I think that's
Mhm.
a very important part of who you are and what you bring into the space that I think is sometimes undervalued. I think lately we only have one stakeholder often in business, and that's um, the client and or stockholder, right? But it used to be that employees and the overall community and such were also considered important stakeholders. And I think you really do. In fact, I know you do. I should just say this because I know, because we have meetings at the beginning of the year, and you have, 4 pillars, and we work with trying to create those. And I respect
Mhm.
that, and I wanted to share that because, again, I think that's part of the legacy that you bring. And I think it's impacted from who all of these things that, again, are part of the pebble. People made ripples in your life that gave strength and positivity to you, that have made you who you are. And you
Mhm.
receive that. And now you're looking to make ripples going forward, correct?
Absolutely. And sometimes to make a ripple, you have to plunk yourself into the water and drown. I mean, it's not always pretty being an impact maker. It's not this wonderful, like, sort of, magical. No, I mean, you take a rock and you huck it into the water and it sinks to the bottom of the lake. I'm sure from the point of view of the rock, it's not going super well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think you're right. If you even want to speak to that a little more, that
Mhm.
sometimes when I say positivity, that doesn't mean there's not work, doesn't mean that there's not effort. In fact, like I said, like I I had to go through a lot to get that result. I didn't walk away from it. I didn't, and you didn't let me walk away from it, right? So if you want to speak to that,
Mhm.
the concept that there to sometimes to be that rock, that there's some effort, if you want to share a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say that it was hard for me to be a mentor at first, like when I was younger, because I just had a sense of like I needed to control things. I needed to have my way of doing it and my way of things. But what's hilarious about that is I failed often too. I mean, I failed as well, but then I would just fix it myself, and I knew how to do that. But when you watch somebody else failing, there's a part of you that wants to just reach out and fix it. And then you rob them of the experience that they need to grow. But it's like your kids, they make mistakes, they do this, they do that, but in order to grow, they have to they have to go through the hard things. Like, we would
Yes,
like to spare everybody the hard things, but the hard things are the actual things that make you grow.
100%. It's like the phrase that you think, "Oh, I wish I could go back when I was younger and with all this knowledge or whatever." You have all the knowledge because of all the stuff that you went through when you were younger, right? It's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that you let me go through it. I did. And no,
It was
I
hard to
think
watch, I'll be honest, but
yeah,
yeah.
I know, but I appreciate it.
Mhm.
And I think it all came together very well
It
for
was
the client
amazing.
as well. I need to
Yes.
say that because we are a business. I feel like the client ended up served as well. This is
Yes.
fair.
Very served, very served.
Um, what do you hope when it's all said and done that your legacy would be?
Yeah. So, now that I've gone over the 50 mark, I feel like I'm starting to think about, the tail end of the career at least. And, for me, it's all about the relationships that I've made over time and those relationships, bearing fruit. So what I mean by that is I'd like to see my legacy to be that I leave people behind me that are just as devoted to, making a difference in the world as I am. So, in different ways. No, it doesn't have to be the way that I make a difference. It just has to be people out there making differences. So in our Smart Social Mastery group, what I love about that group and that community is, that we can, um, that we're raising up an army of people that care about the community, that care and understand that serving the community serves them. And that if I could just get, I mean, in my mind, I'm gonna be honest, I would like to have like 1,000 people out there that have been trained that way so that they are like out there in the world just spreading the seeds, spreading the seeds. That's really what I want. And so yeah, I mean, it's business too, because I mean there's money in it, but I don't do it for the money. I mean, it's nice when money comes and I accept money. Please send it my way. And we have some great clients and we have space for a little more right now. I'm talking to people. We just signed a contract, by the way, um, yesterday, just so you know. So I haven't even told the team yet, so I'm telling you live. So yeah, I just feel like that is something that each individual can do, and a lot of times I think people feel like they don't have a whole lot of impact. And if you just look at this, I mean, I know Barbara Walters is a big person, but she gave me like, I don't know, if you go look at the letter, I think it was like $2,000, something in there. I mean, it's in the letter how much I got. It was not very much money to somebody who has a lot of money. To me, it was literally everything. So even like just taking a little time out and spending time with somebody or getting them over a little hump. I had somebody send me I just let me finish with this. I had somebody send me a DM in LinkedIn the other day, and he says, "I'm going to start my live stream because I saw you and that girl who does live streaming, and you guys, it all crashed during social media breakfast. Um, the stream crashed and we were talking about live streaming and how anything could happen and then the whole stream crashed because why I hadn't plugged in my stupid computer, Tracy. So talk about a mistake. It was my mistake. I hadn't plugged the computer in and the
Remember,
whole thing shut down and it was just we laughed. We plugged it back in, we turned it back on. It was still running live. It just was black on the screen for them out in the audience. And up we came. And guess what? That convinced one person that he could start live streaming.
there you go. Yeah,
So
I
your
love it
mistakes are often other people's, successes. Uh,
because it made him feel like, well, if you could still make a mistake and get back on, it
mhm,
was worth the try. And that's beautiful because that's exactly what you just said about the 1,000 people and going forward with that's what the pebble is that little things make impact. They do. And we don't all have to be Barbara Walters to change the world.
mhm,
And her $2,000, like you said, it might as well have been 1,000,000 because of the impact on your life that and your inability to get it is, I have been there where seriously $500 might as well have been 1,000,000. And so it it sometimes takes so little to change people's lives. It can
mhm,
be words, it can be $5, it can be you never know what it is, but the effort matters. And so I'm so happy you shared your story. And I agree with you, make that army of people who believe that having a community matters too. And that's part of the Pebble. And we're making a Pebble community here that says just those moments of positivity, you are changing the world. And thank you, Kami Huyse, for sharing your positivity with us and for being my friend and mentor. And thank you guys for watching another episode of The Pebble. And if you want to make my day just a smidge brighter, there's a little subscribe button in the bottom, and I'd love it if you'd hit it. But most of all, I appreciate that you gave me a little time today. Thank you.